Most people dream of financial freedom, but they start the journey the wrong way. They chase jobs, promotions, and paychecks, believing that more hours worked means more wealth. That's a lie. The rich don't work for money. Money works for them. The truth is, you can go from zero to financial freedom step by step if you follow the rules of money that schools never teach. Most people fear being broke. They think starting at zero means failure, embarrassment, or defeat. But I want you to flip that perspective. Starting at zero can be the greatest gift of your financial life. Why? Because zero means you have nothing to lose. You can take risks, you can learn, you can experiment, and you don't have to defend a fragile lifestyle built on debt and false appearances. When I was younger, I learned something powerful. Poor people are not poor because of money. They're poor because of mindset. You can give someone $1 million, and if they have a poor mindset, they'll lose it all. You can take away everything from a rich-minded person, and they'll rebuild it. That's why mindset is always the first step. Now, let's talk about why most people never escape zero. The moment they get money, they spend it. They chase security, not freedom. They're afraid of taking risks because they're afraid of looking stupid, of failing, of losing. So they cling to jobs, they cling to paychecks, and they stay in the rat race their entire lives. But the truth is, staying at zero financially is not the problem. It's staying at zero mentally that keeps people trapped. Starting at zero forces you to ask better questions. Instead of asking, "How can I get a raise?" you start asking, "How can I create cash flow?" Instead of asking, "How can I save money?" you ask, "How can I multiply money?" Those questions change your brain. They push you toward financial education. And financial education is the #1 investment you can ever make. Think about it. If you gave me $10, zero today, and I had no financial intelligence, that money would disappear fast. But if I had $0 and you gave me knowledge, I could turn that into assets, into businesses, into streams of income that never stop. That's the power of education. When I was broke, I didn't waste time complaining. I went to seminars, I read books, I listened to mentors. I played my cash flow game not because it was fun, but because it trained my brain to see opportunities where other people only saw obstacles. I learned about assets, liabilities, debt, taxes, and leverage not from school, but from real-life teachers. That's why starting at zero didn't scare me. I knew the real wealth was in the education I was getting, not the dollars in my pocket. You see, money is just a result. It's a reflection of your knowledge, your discipline, and your actions. If you don't have knowledge, money will slip through your fingers like water. But if you have financial intelligence, even if you lose everything, you can rebuild. That's why so many lottery winners go broke. They win millions but lack the mindset. And it's why so many self-made millionaires can go bankrupt and bounce back even stronger. So, if you're starting at zero right now, here's my advice. Stop looking for money. Start looking for knowledge. Don't ask, "How can I make a quick buck?" Ask, "What skill, what lesson, what financial education can I gain today that will serve me for the rest of my life?" Because the truth is, your brain is your greatest asset. Your ideas, your creativity, your ability to solve problems, that's what will create wealth. Not the dollars in your pocket. Those can disappear. But your knowledge, your financial intelligence, that stays with you forever. And here's the best part. Starting at zero means you're hungry. Hunger creates drive. Drive creates discipline. And discipline builds wealth. If you already had millions, you might get lazy, complacent, soft. But at zero, you're sharp. You're alert. You're willing to fight. And that hunger is your biggest advantage. So don't fear zero. Embrace it. Zero is your foundation. Zero is where you build the habits, the mindset, and the education that will make you unstoppable. And remember, it's not about how much money you start with, it's about how much knowledge you gain and how quickly you put that knowledge into action. Start with financial education. Learn the language of money. Understand cash flow, assets, and liabilities. Learn how taxes and debt can work for you instead of against you. These lessons don't cost millions, they cost time, curiosity, and commitment. And once you have that foundation, the money will come. So let me repeat this. Zero is not failure. Zero is opportunity. If you start with the right mindset, zero is the best place to begin. Because from zero, the only direction you can go is up. If you want financial freedom, there's one word you need to burn into your brain. Cash flow. Forget about your salary. Forget about saving pennies. Forget about working overtime to earn a little more. None of that will make you free. What sets the rich apart from everyone else is simple. They build cash flow. Now, let me explain this clearly. Cash flow is money that comes into your pocket every month, whether you work or not. Your job is not cash flow. Your salary is not cash flow. That's earned income. It disappears the moment you stop showing up. If you're not at work, you're not getting paid. That's not freedom. That's a trap. Cash flow is different. Think about a rental property. You buy a small apartment, rent it out, and every month your tenant pays you. That's cash flow. Or you buy stocks that pay dividends every quarter. That's cash flow. Or you build an online business that sells products while you're asleep. That's cash flow. The difference is, it keeps coming in without your physical effort. The poor and the middle class spend their lives chasing higher salaries. They think more income equals more wealth. But here's the truth. A higher salary often just means higher taxes, higher expenses, and higher stress. It doesn't mean freedom. That's why you see people making 6 figures a year who are still broke. They have a nice car, a big house, and mountains of debt. On the outside, they look rich. On the inside, they're trapped. The rich don't chase salaries. They chase assets. They ask, what can I own that will put money in my pocket every month? That's the only question that matters. If it doesn't generate cash flow, it's not an asset. It's a liability. Now, let me be real with you. Building cash flow doesn't happen overnight. This is not about getting rich quick. It's about getting rich forever. It starts small. Maybe your first investment is $100 a month from a dividend stock. Maybe it's $200 profit from a side hustle. It won't make you rich right away, but it changes your mindset. You stop thinking like an employee, and you start thinking like an investor. And that mindset shift is worth millions. Here's the secret. Your goal is not to get rich in one big step. Your goal is to build streams, multiple streams of income. Imagine a river with many small streams flowing into it. That river never dries up. Even if one stream stops, the others keep flowing. That's how the rich stay secure. They don't rely on one paycheck. They have 10, 20, 30 streams of income coming in. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but Robert, I don't have money to invest. I can't buy a property or start a big business. That's the mindset of limitation. The truth is, you can start small. You can learn skills that create digital products. You can start a small online service. You can invest in fractional shares of companies. You can even learn to buy and sell items for profit. The point is, cash flow is not about size. It's about habit. When I was broke, my first investments weren't glamorous. I didn't start with giant buildings or massive businesses. I started small, but I understood the principle: money must work for me. Even if it was only a little, I reinvested, I learned, I improved. Over time, those small streams grew into rivers. And here's what happens when you build cash flow. Freedom becomes real. Imagine your monthly expenses are $3,000, and your cash flow, your rental income, dividends, business profits adds up to $3,500. That means you're financially free. You don't need a job. You don't need a boss. You don't need to trade your life for money anymore. Your assets are paying your bills. That's the moment your life changes. So let me leave you with this. Stop thinking about how much money you earn. Start thinking about how much cash flow you own. Assets that put money in your pocket are the true measure of wealth. Every decision you make from this point forward should be filtered through one question. Does this create cash flow, or does it drain cash flow? If you want freedom, cash flow is not optional, it's the foundation. Build it, protect it, multiply it. Because the moment your cash flow covers your life, you're free. Now that you understand the power of cash flow, here's the real test. What do you do when the money starts coming in? This step separates the middle class from the rich. Most people, the moment they earn a little extra, they rush to consume. They buy new cars, bigger houses, the latest gadgets, vacations they can't afford, and just like that, their wealth is gone before it even begins. The rich play the game differently. When money comes in, they don't spend it. They reinvest it. They feed their assets. They multiply their streams of income instead of draining them. That's why wealth grows exponentially for the rich and stays flat for everyone else. Think of every dollar you earn as an employee. Poor people spend their employees on things that rust, break, and lose value. The middle class spends their employees on liabilities: houses too big, cars too expensive, credit cards maxed out. But the rich, they send their employees out to work for them. They take that dollar and reinvest it into assets that create more dollars. $1 becomes $2, $2 becomes $4, $4 becomes $8. That's how wealth compounds. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine you start a small online business and it makes $500 in profit a month. Most people would celebrate, then spend that $500 on dinners, clothes, or entertainment. That's the consumption trap. But the rich would take that $500 and reinvest it, maybe in advertising to grow the business, maybe in buying dividend stocks, maybe in learning a new skill that multiplies future income. That reinvestment means the next month, instead of $500, maybe you're making $700. The month after that, $1,000. In a year, $2,000. That's how the snowball of wealth is built. Here's the painful truth. Most people will never be rich because they cannot resist consumption. The moment they have a little extra, they upgrade their lifestyle. That's called lifestyle inflation. They get a raise, and instead of investing, they buy a new car. They earn a bonus, and instead of acquiring assets, they take a vacation. They live paycheck to paycheck at every income level. $50, $0, $1, 100 zeros, $0, even $500, $0 a year. It doesn't matter. If you consume instead of reinvest, you'll always stay broke. The discipline of reinvestment requires delayed gratification. It means saying no to comfort today so you can say yes to freedom tomorrow. The rich understand that the real fun, the real luxury, the real enjoyment comes not from spending money you earned, but from enjoying life funded entirely by assets. Imagine traveling the world not with savings, but with cash flow. Imagine buying a car not with your paycheck, but with dividends. That's true wealth. Now, I'm not saying never enjoy your money. I'm saying build the foundation first. Reinvest until your passive income covers your lifestyle. Once your assets are strong enough, then you can consume without guilt, without debt, without fear. Most people do it backwards. They consume first, invest later, and freedom never comes. Here's a rule I live by. Never buy a liability until an asset can pay for it. Want a new car? Great. Don't use your salary buy it with your rental income. Want a vacation? Perfect. Let your dividends fund it. This one principle will keep you disciplined and force you to grow your assets before you grow your lifestyle. Remember this, money is a tool. If you treat it like candy, you'll eat it all and have nothing left. If you treat it like seeds and you plant it, water it, and let it grow, soon you'll have an orchard that feeds you forever. Reinvestment is the planting stage, and most people never plant, they only consume. So ask yourself right now, every dollar that comes into your life, where is it going? Is it going into liabilities that drain your future, or into assets that build your freedom? Your answer will determine your destiny. The rich get richer not because they're smarter, but because they reinvest. The poor stay poor not because they're unlucky, but because they consume. Your future wealth depends on which side you choose. So here's the challenge starting today. Treat every dollar as an employee. Don't fire it on useless consumption. Put it to work. Reinvest it. Let it multiply, because the more employees you have working for you, the faster you escape the rat race. And that's the real path to freedom. If you try to get rich by using only your own money, your own time, and your own skills, you'll stay small forever. That's the truth. Wealth is not built by working harder. Wealth is built by working smarter, and smarter means using leverage. So, what is leverage? It's simply the ability to do more with less. It's about multiplying your results without multiplying your effort. And the rich use three main forms of leverage: other people's money, other people's time, and other people's skills. If you master these, you can expand faster than you ever thought possible. Let's start with other people's money, what we call opium. The middle class fears debt. They see debt as dangerous. They're taught to avoid it at all costs. But the rich know there are two types of debt: bad debt and good debt. Bad debt takes money out of your pocket: credit cards, car loans, consumer loans. That's the kind of debt that keeps people broke. But good debt, that's the kind of debt that buys assets. It's when you borrow money to acquire something that puts money in your pocket. For example, you borrow from the bank to buy a rental property. The tenant pays the rent, and the rent covers the loan. You just bought an income stream with the bank's money. That's leverage. Think about this. If you had to save up cash for everything you buy, you'd move at a snail's pace. But if you learn how to use OPM, you can scale quickly. That's why the rich get richer. They use leverage to grow faster than their own cash flow would allow. Next, let's talk about other people's time. You only have 24 hours in a day. If you try to do everything yourself, you'll burn out and stay small. But when you learn to build teams, when you hire employees, when you delegate tasks, you multiply your time. That's why business owners grow while employees stay stuck. Employees trade their hours for money. Owners leverage hundreds, even thousands of hours from other people every single day. I'll give you an example. Imagine you start a small restaurant. If you cook, serve, clean, and handle the finances yourself, you might earn a little money, but you'll also be exhausted. Now imagine you hire cooks, waiters, and managers. Suddenly, the restaurant can serve hundreds of customers a day without you lifting a finger. You've leveraged other people's time. That's how you grow from one location to 5, from 5 to 50. Finally, there's other people's skills. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room. In fact, if you're always the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. The rich surround themselves with experts. They hire accountants who know the tax code, lawyers who know contracts, marketers who know how to sell, and managers who know how to lead. By tapping into other people's skills, you don't have to master everything. You just need to direct the orchestra. Here's the difference. Poor people try to do it all themselves. They think they're saving money by not asking for help. But really, they're keeping themselves small. The rich, on the other hand, ask, "Who can do this better than me?" And they use leverage to grow bigger, faster, smarter. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Robert, isn't leverage risky? Yes, it can be, if you don't know what you're doing. That's why financial education comes first. You don't just borrow money blindly. You don't just hire people without systems. You study, you learn, you test, and then you scale. When you use leverage wisely, you accelerate wealth. When you use it blindly, you crash. That's why the rich don't fear leverage, they master it. Leverage is the difference between working for money and building wealth. Employees work with only their own effort. The self-employed work with their own effort plus maybe a little help. The business owner, they use systems, teams, money, and skills. And the investor, they use all of those plus the power of markets. That's why the left side of the cash flow quadrant struggles and the right side wins. So let me ask you, are you trying to do everything on your own? Are you afraid to borrow, afraid to delegate, afraid to trust experts? If so, you're holding yourself back. The rich don't ask, "How can I do this?" They ask, "Who can do this for me?" They don't ask, "How much will this cost?" They ask, "How much cash flow will this generate if I leverage it?" Remember this, leverage is not about being lazy. It's about being smart. It's about multiplying your resources, not just adding to them. If you want to escape the rat race, you must learn to stop working harder and start leveraging, because wealth is not built by one person. It's built by teams, by systems, by networks, by leverage. So start small. Use the bank's money to acquire your first asset. Delegate small tasks so you can focus on growth. Surround yourself with people who are smarter than you in their field. Step by step, leverage will expand your capacity beyond your own limits. That's how small players become big players. That's how ordinary people become extraordinary. And that's how you turn limited time, money, and skills into unlimited opportunity. Here's the hard truth. If you want to get rich, you're going to lose money. There's no way around it. Every successful investor, every business owner, every entrepreneur I know has lost money at some point. The difference between the rich and everyone else isn't whether they lose. It's how they respond when they lose. Most people hate losing. In school, we were taught that mistakes are bad. Fail the test and you're punished. Answer the question wrong and you're embarrassed. From a young age, society trains us to avoid failure at all costs. So when people grow up and enter the real world, the moment they make a financial mistake, lose $1, zeros, arrow zero, invest in the wrong thing, start a business that fails. They quit. They say, "This isn't for me, investing is risky, business is too hard," and they run back to the safety of a job. That's why most people stay stuck. The rich think differently. They see losses as tuition. If you lose $1,000 in an investment you didn't lose, you paid $1,000 to learn a lesson that will save you from losing $10,000 in the future. That's financial education in the real world. Some people spend tens of thousands on college degrees that never pay off. I'd rather spend money on real life lessons that build my financial intelligence. When I first started investing, I made plenty of mistakes. I bought properties that didn't cash flow. I trusted the wrong partners. I miscalculated deals. But every single time I walked away smarter. The key was I didn't let the loss stop me. I treated it as feedback, not failure. That's how you grow. Think about it this way. When a baby learns to walk, they fall dozens of times. They stumble, they hit the ground, they cry. But eventually they stand up and walk. Imagine if a baby said, "Well, I fell twice. I guess walking isn't for me." Ridiculous, right? Yet that's exactly how most adults treat money. They try once, they fail, and they quit. That's why babies eventually walk. And most adults never achieve financial freedom. Losses are part of the process. If you're not losing sometimes, you're not playing the game. You're sitting on the sidelines, watching others take risks while you stay safe. But safety is an illusion. Working at a job for 40 years is risky. Depending on a pension is risky. Putting your savings in the bank while inflation eats it alive is risky. The real risk is doing nothing. The rich understand that failure is not the opposite of success, it's the foundation of success. Every great entrepreneur has failed. Steve Jobs was fired from his own company. Elon Musk nearly went bankrupt multiple times. I lost businesses and investments before I became financially free. But we kept moving forward because failure was part of the tuition. So how do you learn from losses instead of being destroyed by them? First, manage your risk. Don't bet the farm on one deal. Start small. Learn the rules before you go big. If you're investing, put in amounts you can afford to lose while you're learning. If you're starting a business, test your idea cheaply before scaling. That way, your losses are manageable and they become lessons, not disasters. Second, reflect on every mistake. Don't just move on blindly. Ask, what went wrong? What did I miss? What will I do differently next time? Write it down. Learn the lesson. That's how you turn $1,000 loss into $1 million education. And third, keep going. The biggest difference between the rich and the poor is persistence. The poor stop when they lose. The rich keep playing until they win. You don't fail when you lose money. You fail when you quit. Here's what I want you to remember. If you're not willing to lose, you're not willing to win. Losses are the price of freedom. They are the tuition you pay to escape the rat race. So instead of fearing them, embrace them. Learn from them. Use them to sharpen your financial intelligence. Because, in the end, every dollar you lose in the short term is buying you wisdom that no school, no textbook, no teacher can give you. And that wisdom is what will make you rich. So don't run from losses. Don't let fear stop you. Learn, adapt, and keep moving forward. Because the people who win in the game of money are not the ones who never fall, they're the ones who fall. Get back up and keep going until they succeed. Financial freedom isn't about having millions sitting in the bank. It's not about buying Ferraris, mansions, or showing off on Instagram. Financial freedom means one thing. You no longer need to work for money. Your money works for you. For most people, life looks like this. Wake up, go to work, collect a paycheck, pay the bills, and repeat. That's the rat race. You're running as fast as you can, but you never get ahead. The moment you stop running, if you lose your job, if you get sick, if the company downsizes, you're in trouble because your income stops. That's not freedom. That's slavery with a nice paycheck. The rich escape this cycle by focusing on cash flow. Instead of working for money, they build assets that generate income month after month, whether they work or not. Real estate, businesses, royalties, dividends, intellectual property. These are assets that put money in your pocket even while you sleep. When your passive income is greater than your expenses, congratulations. You are financially free. Think about that for a second. Imagine your rent, your groceries, your bills, your lifestyle, all paid for by your investments. You wake up and money has already flowed into your account. That's the moment you stop worrying about the next paycheck. That's the moment you own your time. Time is the ultimate wealth. Once you achieve financial freedom, you can choose what to do with your day. You can spend it with family, travel the world, build new businesses, or simply relax. You have options, and options are freedom. But here's the catch. Financial freedom doesn't come from luck. It comes from discipline. It comes from years of making smart choices, building assets, reinvesting profits, and learning from losses. It comes from doing what most people won't do today, so you can live the way most people can't tomorrow. When I achieved financial freedom, it didn't mean I stopped working. In fact, I worked harder than ever. But the difference was, I worked because I wanted to, not because I had to. That's a powerful shift. I wasn't working for survival. I was working for growth, for passion, for purpose. And that's when wealth truly multiplies. Most people misunderstand freedom. They think freedom means doing nothing. But doing nothing will make you broke. Real freedom is about having control of your time, your money, and your future. And that's only possible when your assets cover your lifestyle. So, how do you achieve it? Start with the basics. Track your expenses. Know exactly how much money you need to live each month. That number is your freedom target. Next, build or buy assets that generate income. Maybe it's a rental property that cash flows $500 a month. Maybe it's an online business that brings in $1,000. Maybe it's dividends from stocks. Piece by piece, your assets grow. And every dollar of passive income gets you one step closer to freedom. You don't need millions to be free. If your monthly expenses are $3,000 and your assets produce $3,000 or more, you're free. The number is different for everyone. Some people achieve freedom at $50,000 a year, others at $500,000. The key isn't the size of the number, it's that your money works harder than you do. And here's the final lesson. Financial freedom is not the end of the journey, it's the beginning. Once you no longer trade time for money, your possibilities open wide. You can create, give back, mentor others, build legacies. You're no longer chained to survival. You're free to live life on your terms. So, the real question is not, can you achieve financial freedom? The real question is, are you willing to take the steps? Are you willing to be different, to sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term freedom, to fail, learn, and keep going until your assets are greater than your expenses? If the answer is yes, then your freedom is not a dream, it's a destination. And every choice you make, every dollar you invest, Every lesson you learn brings you closer to it. Because in the end, financial freedom isn't just about money, it's about power, the power to say yes, the power to say no, the power to live life on your terms, and that is the true definition of wealth. So here's the truth. Financial freedom is not a lottery ticket, it's not a miracle, and it's not reserved for a chosen few. It's a process, a step-by-step journey. You start at zero, you build cash flow, you reinvest instead of consuming, you use leverage wisely, you learn from your losses, and you keep going until your assets cover your life. Most people will never take this path. They'll stay in the rat race, chasing paychecks, trapped by debt, and working until the day they die. Why? Because they let fear stop them. They want safety more than freedom, but freedom belongs to the brave, to the ones willing to think differently, to take risks, to fail and get back up. Freedom belongs to those who see money not as a paycheck, but as a tool to buy assets, to build wealth, to create choices. And remember this, you don't have to be rich to start. You just have to start. Start small, learn fast, and keep moving. Every step brings you closer to the life most people only dream about. Because at the end of the day, financial freedom is not just about money, it's about control. Control over your time, your choices, your future. That's the real wealth, and once you have that, you'll never go back. So the journey from zero to freedom begins today. The question is, are you ready to take the first step?